of the Nile, you find Memphis, you find Cairo, you find all of these, names of Egyptian cities.
Yes, yes, exactly. And it's all incorporated in the stela and even in the magical designs of the city as Astana and the things that we've been talking about. Because we are ruled by sorcerers. We are ruled by magicians that have ancient knowledge that has been carried forth. You'll find that the Vatican, after 500 years of having an open library, suddenly shut it down. You'll find that we're moving into an era where it's possible that they could actually use mind transfer technology coupled with time control technologies to actually send Akhenaten's mind into Obama's body as they had done with Avatar, being that he would be the right genetic mix for that consciousness to re-embody itself.
You now have Barack and Apophis, and this leads us to the space wars. So if we could elaborate maybe a bit more on that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's the critical juncture we're at. So we've moved from terrorists to asteroids, Apophis, and they use this to construct the Jet Propulsion Laboratories asteroid watch. The Russians are launching satellites and rockets to attempt to try to stop Apophis's collision with planet Earth. And they have now launched out so many surveillance systems out into space to try and watch for near-Earth objects. So we just had Mazian Othman, the UN's quote-unquote alien ambassador. Now I say quote-unquote because she absolutely categorically denies that she ever was, is, or will be the alien ambassador for the UN. But they actually announced her as such and had a major conference with the Royal Society, which is wrapped up in the College of the Rosicrucians. And Mazian Othman comes out to say that she was going to this conference on extraterrestrial civilizations and life that the Royal Society was putting out, but not as the alien ambassador, as BBC announced her, but as the person to speak on near-Earth objects. And so these near-Earth objects are now the buzzword all around, but we're moving from asteroids to aliens, so they're intermingling these two stories. So as we watch the alien agenda unfold, first we have the massive fireballs flying all over the US and around the world that are causing sonic booms and earthquakes. And these are very anomalous. They're supposed to be rare, but I've been tracking them for quite some time now in my Space War news. And what I had done was track these anomalous fireballs that didn't seem to have a bolide, no rock involved. Every scientist looking at them says, well, we don't know what it is. And the first one I documented was 1999, December, over the HARP facility. And so in my documentary on HARP, I show you this. I show you the trajectory of that meteor and the fact that the Anchorage Daily News reported a sonic boom and an earthquake. And that it happened to go directly over the HARP facility, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, which is actually a missile defensive shield, which is now housed in Cheyenne Mountain, where they filmed Stargate, right? Space Command. This first bolide, or non-bolide, came in, caused an earthquake and a sonic boom. So I started tracking these things. And as they increased to the point where we just had one over Wisconsin that lit up 3 states. And people are freaking out. But of course we're not having any impacts. We're not having anything that shows that a rock struck. And we then can compare that with the ideas that I was giving you on the Norway spiral and the cloud of care, and the use of manipulated frequencies coupled with aluminum oxide clouds dispersed out of rockets. Well, they suddenly classified those as secret. And you can watch that on my Space War News as that unfolds. Suddenly the fireballs are considered a secret subject, and all of the astronomers and people that were tracking these sort of things are up in arms about it. So here we are in the midst of that near-Earth asteroid, near-Earth object, weaponization of space, and so what they just did was launch the space-based space surveillance system. And this was launched out of Vandenberg Air Force Base and is now an array of satellites looking for debris in the atmosphere, or in the outer space.
Well, there's a lot of debris from us still up there.
Well, that's right, and that's what they use as part of their excuse for the weaponization of space. But Werner von Braun, the Nazi scientist who forewarned this through Carol Rosin, said that we were fighting an extraterrestrial source that was coming to perhaps help. He never really elaborated, and he constantly mentioned of the universes. And he says, when they say the aliens come to attack, I'm going to laugh, because it's the opposite. We're attacking the aliens. This is Werner von Braun. What can I say? But lo and behold, we have the exact war that he is talking about. So now we watch the beginning of this next phase, the UFO phase. And what happens is we start to learn of our extraterrestrial past. And I made note constantly, watch Phobos. Phobos is going to play a critical role in this revelation of extraterrestrial civilizations, ancient civilizations, and the whole works. And lo and behold, Buzz Aldrin, after I said all of this on London television, comes out and says, there's a monolith on Phobos. And either the God put it there or aliens, you decide, he says. But now Buzz Aldrin is the 33rd degree Mason that brought the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rites flag to the moon with them when they landed. So you can still see that flag at the Temple of the 33rd. So realize who this man is, and he's coming in and he's saying exactly this thing. And all of a sudden, everybody's sights are on Phobos. Now, the Russia-China alliance was setting up the Phobos Grunt mission, and they were supposed to have launched this year, but they've postponed until next year. And NASA is pushing all of their Mars thing, and now SpaceX with their Dragon is coming up with Mars probes and Mars, colonizing Mars is really what Elon Musk is talking about. Well, lo and behold, Phobos, they decide to determine what's going on with it. They go up to it with the Mars Observer and use the Marsis, which is kind of a hermaphroditic symbol, Mars and Isis, Marsis, hermaphrodite. And they go and they turn the satellite completely off into a silent running as if they were a sub in wartime. And because all 6 of the other Phobos satellites have vanished. The last one, Phobos 2, the Russians, took a picture of a 14-mile-long craft before losing communication with Earth. And, of course, I forgot her name. The Russian scientist came out and showed this picture to the world and said, what is this and why, what is going on with Phobos? So we send up the Mars Observer. It goes around with the Marsis, and it takes imagery of Mars from the inside using tomography. And they find that Phobos is actually hollow. And this was the very thing. And they actually mentioned that they would not be able to get a photograph of the monolith because they had to shut down all systems to do a silent running. Very curious stuff. Along with bombing the moon. Now, why would you bomb the moon? We launch a Atlas rocket, Minotaur Atlas rocket up to the moon, carrying a satellite, the Lacrosse. And now, the curious thing about the Lacrosse mission, now what they had announced was that they were going to launch a rocket to crash into the south pole of the moon to see if there was water, and to also watch the deterioration. But prior to the launch of this rocket, India had launched their Chandrayaan-1 satellite and found water on the moon. The Japanese had launched their Kaguya, or what was known as Selene satellite, and crashed it into the moon. And so we had our debris and deterioration already done by Japan and India. And yet America still had to crash a big old rocket into the moon. $79 million to crash this rocket into the moon. Or at least that's as much as we heard about. Why would they do this? What would be the purpose? Well, if we start to look at what we have, and we have these antenna arrays that are able to shoot Doritos commercials to Ursa Major, they also are capable of tomography, computer tomography, of seeing within things. So like in Jurassic Park, where they thump the ground to see the dinosaur under the ground, we thump the moon, which all the astronauts have reported rings out like a gong, and hit it with one of our radio frequency ionospheric heaters, and got tomography of what the inside of the moon looks like.
So now it looks like not only do we have, a potentially hollow moon, but that there are more of these hollow moons. And in terms of a spinning mass, the difference between the centrifugal force and the level of gravity is, as spinning mass of something, say magma would cool, a certain amount of the centrifugal force that it's generating while it's spinning, it's going to cool on the outside first and slowly in. And so if it's spinning like that and the gravitational field at the center is not proportionate to the weight of the to the amount of centrifugal force that it's generating, at some point what you're going to end up with is a hollow object.
Right, exactly. Yeah, which speaks loads to the hollow earth theory, right? I mean, I believe Admiral Byrd. I believe that science that went on, and I believe in this. Well, when you take this to the level of the Egyptian gods, like Akhenaten would worship, and the Ennead, the Nine, they being supposed representations from Sirius, but called the old ones that were left hibernating around Saturn. Now, we're talking about faux moons. We have ours, of course, which is completely foreign and bizarre in all its aspects. But then you have the Mars's moons, Phobos and Deimos, which is fear and panic, right? So they're programming fear and panic. Everything's Phobos, Phobos, fear, fear. And Phobos and Deimos did not appear until 1877. There's not a single astronomer who ever put moons on Mars up until 1877, and then everyone saw them. Prior to that, the only place you would see moons on Mars were fictional works such as Gulliver's Travels. Other than that, Mars had no moons. So 1877, the moons show up. At that same time, they established the U.S. corporation, the Columbia, and they also put Isis's needle on the Thames there in London on 1877, where they put the Masonic 12-inch rule inside of that.
Now, which moon is the one that's got the belt all the way around?
Well, that's what I was getting to. So now we find out that these Syrian gods, the fish people, the merfolk, were brought here and are contained in a moon connected to Saturn. And we find out that as the Cassini satellite came past the Saturn rings and took photographs of the moon, Iapetus, it was the Death Star. To a T. It is the Death Star from George Lucas's Return of the Jedi, which was originally Revenge of the Jedi, and they were not ready to plant the vengeful hero yet. Right? So they changed the title to Return from Revenge. The moon of Mars, or of Saturn, Iapetus, is the Death Star. You can see the tetrahedral domes, you can see the seal, a 12-mile wide ring around the exact equator. You can see that the craters on the moon are falling in tetrahedral designs. So it's a creation, it's a false moon. And perhaps that's where the gods are hibernating, because it's absolutely ancient and deteriorated, right? So yeah, that's Saturn and the Saturn connection to the Syrians, to the Ennead, the 9 gods of Egypt. Bizarre story, which is coming to life at this moment. We are starting to see this awakening of Egypt and the Egyptian culture. Barack Obama went to the Great Pyramids, and when he met with Zahi Hawass, the head of the Giza Plateau, the general secretary, he told Barack that he looked very much like King Tut. And they started putting out these pictures of Barack Obama as King Tut. And Barack saw actually a cartouche with an image of an Egyptian in it with big old ears, and he says, "Oh, that one looks like me." And this is all after I'd called him Akhenaten. And so now he's in Egypt claiming to look like King Tut, who is actually Akhenaten's son. And I even thought, well, maybe they're trying to cover my story, because everybody heard of King Tut, but no one knows Akhenaten. And so they associated him to King Tut so that everybody wouldn't learn what I'm trying to tell you, and that is that he's that guy.
Well, I mean, there's got to be a reason for the ancients' obsession with the stars. The buildings are aligned with the stars. Everything is everything, and the detail in which they made these calendars, particularly in South America, but I mean elsewhere as well, indicates that there's something more happening up there than modern man wants to acknowledge. And another group of interesting moons would be the ones on Jupiter. You know, Europa, Ganymede, Io. You probably can name them all.
I don't think so, but
No,
you know, it wasn't amazing that they would announce they found life on Europa, and now we're at 2010, the year we